Welcome to our course. It is entitled Biblical and Theological Foundations for Apologetics. And this is a core course, a base course in the Apologetics major in the master's program. And so what we're going to do this semester is we're going to get familiarized with a lot of terminology. Also, we will get the opportunity to look at what Scripture teaches us about the apologetic task, how we can use Scripture in carrying out the apologetic task, and the primary points of theological orientation between Scripture or between theology and apologetics. This course will present the biblical and theological nature of apologetics. In fact, if you look at your syllabus, it's going to tell you that right at the top. The student will study the biblical mandate for apologetics ministry, examining Old and New Testament examples of apologetics and ministry. And the students will then be encouraged to develop a personal apologetic model or approach based on biblical and theological models. So that's going to be the nature of what we're doing here for the next 8 weeks. And what I want to do in this initial lecture is to introduce myself to you, because most of you, if not all of you, do not know me, and tell you a bit about my background. And then I want to spend some time going over the syllabus together, because even though you are master's level students, and even though I have been doing this for a long time, I have learned over the years that oftentimes misunderstandings develop between the professor and the students when it comes to the course, misunderstandings that could have been avoided if the syllabus had been paid more attention to, or if the professor had crafted the syllabus a little bit better. Now, we've worked pretty hard here over the last weeks to make this syllabus everything that it ought to be. I've passed it through 2 different administrative hands, and so we should be pretty much on target. But nonetheless, we'll go over it. Let me talk first of all a little bit about myself. This course is not about me. It's about the apologetics task and biblical and theological foundations. However, it would probably be helpful for you to know a little more about me and to understand where it is that I'm coming from when I deal with specific kinds of apologetics issues. One of the things that you'll discover, especially as you go throughout this master's level program in apologetics, is that not all apologists agree about everything. There are several schools of apologetics. Those will be introduced to at some point in the course of your program. I'll not take the time to do that today, but you need to know a little bit about me, my convictions, and my background. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado, where I was born. Went to college at a non-denominational Christian school in Denver. Felt called to the ministry when I was 18 years old during my freshman year of college. And so I changed my major from wildlife biology to Christian studies. Finished my 4-year program there in 4 years, and then went off to Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. I chose Southwestern because my pastor was a trustee, and my pastor was a very energetic and influential man. And so I went down and spent some time on the campus and decided this was the place for me. And so in the late 1970s, I enrolled at Southwestern and received the MDiv degree after 3 years of study. During the entire time that I was working on my master's degree, I was also employed, and exclusively employed by secular employers. And so I found the opportunity then to sort of hone my apologetic skills to whatever degree I had skills in those days. And working in a secular workplace, oftentimes for people whose lives demonstrate no familiarity with the gospel whatsoever, helped me, I think, better to understand how to witness to people, which of course is core to the whole apologetic task, witnessing to people who need to hear the gospel. and finished my MDiv. Got married not long after I finished my master's program. Went back to Colorado and worked as a bivocational pastor uh, in the Denver area, and again had secular employment. And so it seems as though for a number of years in my early life, I was giving as much time and attention to working around non-Christians as I was to working around Christians. And again, this did not make me a master apologist, but it certainly gave me a sensitivity to the kinds of questions that people ask, whether they're just common folk who teach school or who work in a woodworking shop, or whether they're professors who are flying somewhere on a plane sitting somewhere next to me. The opportunity to carry out the apologetics ministry and task was something that was part of my life. In 1992, I began doctoral studies. This was something that I had avoided for some time, but our family conversations got to the point where we felt like that was the right thing to do. Did not get my degree in philosophy of religion, although I had a philosophy minor in my undergrad program. I also took a philosophy minor in my PhD studies. So my primary degree situation is not in philosophy, which is oftentimes the area of expertise that people have committed themselves to, who eventually write books on apologetics and give lots of lectures on apologetics. But my background was systematic theology, scripture, church history, and only secondarily philosophy of religion and apologetics. But hopefully my area of expertise in Bible and theology will lend itself well, especially to this course. So that's what we're doing here. I was in the pastorate for a number of years, full-time pastorate for a number of years, and then eventually was called to teach at North Greenville College, now North Greenville University in South Carolina. I spent 3 years there teaching just about every course that nobody else wanted to teach. When you're the new kid on the block, you pretty much take what they give you. So I taught a lot of Bible. I taught some theology, church history, assorted other courses. And then after 3 years there, I went on to Southern Seminary, where I taught at both the seminary and also at the undergrad level at Boyce College. At Boyce, when I first arrived, I was handling at least a portion of the teaching in philosophy of religion, and did some teaching in the area of apologetics, cults, new religions, and the more traditional religions of the world. These were courses that I taught a number of different times, both at North Greenville and at Boyce. During all that time, I still continued to be in the pastorate. Have held now 11 interim pastorates over the last 18 years or so. And so I've tried to keep my ministry as something that's fresh and relevant and in contact with Christian people, and not to live in an ivory tower. The concept of a sort of ivory tower approach to life is one that we often associate with people who are teaching the kinds of courses that you'll be taking in the apologetics program. But I would want to encourage you that of the men that I know who are teaching in this area, none of them is an ivory tower guy. They're all people who have been in the ministry, been pastors of churches, been youth pastors, as well as teaching at the academic level. And I think apologetics is one of those kinds of courses where the combination of academics and of practical knowledge of the church, as well as a sensitivity to the kinds of issues that lay people face, that these are all very, very important to the task. So hopefully that'll give you some perspective of me and where I am. My wife and I right now live in Tennessee, in Monterey, Tennessee, on 40, about halfway through Nashville, between Nashville and Knoxville. So if you're in the area sometime, give me a call and we'll have coffee, or I'll take you to one of the great restaurants in Monterey, like Burger King. But we live here on some acreage north of town, and I am currently adjunct professor at 3 different schools and doing interim pastoral work and writing. And that's pretty much where my ministry has been focused now for the last few years.